Oh, we're looking at believers and professors. Actually, there are those that are really true believers and those that profess to believe. And that's what we're looking at today. Since the beginning of time, God has had people on earth that are truly His people. But they are troubled by many of them that are professors, claiming to be one of the believers, but they aren't. This problem of false believers among true believers will continue until the Son of Man sends forth his angels and gathers them out of his kingdom. Are there unbelievers that are members of churches? Some pastors estimate that 50% of their congregation on church rolls are not saved. Some say up to 75%. What are we to do with these lost church members who profess to be saved but are really lost? Satan can't uproot a true believer, so he plants false believers, those who profess to be saved but are not. This causes a multitude of problems. In the book of Matthew, beginning with Matthew chapter 13, verse 24, it is explained that the kingdom of heaven is like a man which sowed seed in the field. Christ is planting or sowing true believers throughout the world. Jesus explains this in Matthew 13, verse 38. Jesus tells us that the field is the world, and the good seed are the children of the kingdom, the true believers. Then in Matthew chapter 13, verse 25, Matthew tells us that while men slept, an enemy sowed tares among the wheat. Jesus tells us in Matthew 13, chapter 29 through 42, that this enemy that sowed the tares is the devil. Tares are weeds that look just like the wheat until harvest time. Wheat bears fruit, but tares do not. Christ sows the true believers, the wheat, and then comes Satan and sows the tares, the false Christians among the believers. In Matthew chapter 13, verses 38 through 39, we see that these tares are the children of the wicked one, the devil. These are the professors of Christianity that reject the redemptive work of Christ and are lost. Satan has his false Christians. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 26, that believe in a false gospel, according to Galatians chapter 1, verse 6 through 9. In Matthew chapter 13, verse 30, Matthew tells us to let false Christians grow among the true Christian. So the task of the church is to plant true believers, not to pull up or cast out false believers. For doing so may uproot a true believer. Jesus will take care of that at the harvest, according to Matthew chapter 13, verses 41 through 43. We can see this mixture of believers and professors throughout the Bible. There are many Bible references concerning this, but here's just a few samples. We have the example of Cain and Abel in Genesis chapter 4, verses 3 through 5. And the mixed multitude is seen in Nehemiah chapter 13, verses 1 through 3. A mixed multitude was among the children of Israel, Numbers chapter 11, verses 4 through 6. And the false teachers and deceitful workers are mentioned in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 13 through 15. And then Paul tells us of the false brethren brought in to lead them into bondage in Galatians chapter 2, verse 4. Peter warns us of false teachers among us, and that many would follow them. And that's according to 2 Peter chapter 2 and verses 1 through 2. Unfortunately, on that last one, there's many false churches and many false teachers and preachers, and it is a time of apostasy. There are many people who are formalists, hypocrites, and deceived legalists that are working for their own salvation, while a true believer is working out the salvation they already have as a free gift. That's in Philippians 2, verses 12 through 13. And then in Ephesians 2, 8 through 10, the Apostle Paul says that we are saved by grace through faith, and that not of ourselves, it is the gift of God. And that not of ourselves, and he continues on to say, not of works, lest any man should boast. And then he goes on in verse 10 to tell us that we're saved unto good works. So it's after salvation that we do good works because we love Jesus Christ and what he did for us. Therefore, no one can boast except for God's mercy and grace. Let's look at believers and professors just for a short here. I'll give you a few verses and some information about both. Believers are rewarded. We find that in Matthew 25:19 through 23. But professors are punished. Matthew 25, verse 24 through 30. Believers, their faith saves them, according to Luke chapter 7, verse 15. And professors, Simon said that he believed and was baptized, but his heart was not right. Acts chapter 8, verse 13 and 21. For believers, Jesus said that those who came to him, he would not cast out. And that's in John chapter 6, verse 37 and verse 38. And professors, Jesus said there were some among them that believed not. John chapter 6, verse 64 and verse 66. Believers will receive a reward of inheritance according to Colossians chapter 3, verse 24. Professors will proclaim salvation by works. But Jesus said he never knew them. And you see a lot of people claiming salvation by works today. And that's in Matthew chapter 7, verse 22 through 23. Also, believers, those that received his word, were baptized and continued in the apostles' doctrine. That's in Acts chapter 2, verses 41 through 42. And professors, John says they went out from us because they were not of us in 1 John chapter 2, verse 19. And then for believers, the righteousness of God, which is by faith, came upon all those that believe. That's Romans chapter 3, verse 22. But professors, Jesus said, you appear righteous unto men, but are full of hypocrisy and wickedness. Matthew chapter 23, verse 28 and 33. And for believers, those that are saved are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb. Revelation 19, verse 7. So what happens to the professor at that time? Professors are cast into outer darkness. Matthew chapter 13, verses 41 through 43, and Matthew 22, verses 11 through 13. And again, I thank you for listening.